every day. And recently we've been hearing Metaverse a lot. So we hosted this event to know about the Metaverse and get knowledge about it. And that is why we've hosted you all as a brilliant panel today to tell us more about what the buzz is. So I'll start by introducing Ambos. Ambos is a product manager at 8Chili. Now 8Chili is an AR VR platform that helps in improving the healthcare industry right now. Ambos, do you want to explain more?
Yeah, sure. So I'll just introduce myself as well again. Um, I'm product manager at HLE, and I've been working in the AR/VR field for quite some time now. Yeah, it all really started when I was pursuing my master's at Georgia Tech, and I got introduced to the Oculus development kit, and I just fell in love with the technology. So in the next couple of years, I would go on to work on multiple VR projects professionally and academically. Um, and I tested and developed with all the major headsets from Oculus, Microsoft, Google, HTC. So currently at HLE, my role here allows me to enable the healthcare metaverse. That includes patient engagement, therapy, rehabilitation, and we also are working on surgical training and education. So our goal here at HLE is to democratize access to quality healthcare training and deliver a state-of-the-art experience to the patients as well. So we are catering both to surgeons as well as patients.
Amazing. Great. Sounds interesting. I look forward to learning about it from you. Next, I'll introduce Dave. So Dave has an experience of over 20 years and he's been working in various fields. He's practiced as a lawyer for 10 years at top law firms and also as an in-house counsel at many Fortune 500 companies. He's also worked as a CEO, CTO, and Chief Product Officer at many small and
Hello?
large companies. Hello? Hello? You could hear me, right?
That wasn't me.
Okay. Um, he's also a startup advisor. And Dave, let's hear from you. What are you working on currently?
Yeah, so like you said, I practiced law for 10 years and I was introduced to virtual reality in 2007. I began developing virtual workplaces between the US and India back in 2007. I got involved in AR in 2009. I worked in product in a large media company, and now I'm back in VR and AR for the past year and a half, mostly advising companies on strategy, product, operations, and messaging. I find that because we're in early days in this technology, it's important to really understand and articulate well the purpose of the technology and the value of it, rather than just the excitement around it. So I spend a lot of time talking to companies about that and trying to make their product successful in the marketplace.
Right. Interesting. So you must be knowing a lot many applications of the metaverse based on the different startups you work with.
Yeah, I have everything from startups in AR and crypto to VR in the healthcare space and others. And each of them presents a different set of opportunities, all around the sort of the core concept of immersive experiences.
Amazing. We'll surely learn a lot more about different aspects and different applications of metaverse from you. So our next speaker is Brian. Brian is on the core team of the Harmony blockchain as a product marketing manager for the Blue Metaverse. He's also started a DAO for specifically for women, and he's well versed with NFTs as well. So Brian, could you shed more light about the DAO and NFT platforms you've created?
Sure. When I first came to Harmony, I had helped launch Blue DAO, which is a women's DAO to help women get into crypto and to teach methods of financial empowerment to women. So we launched the DAO and we minted an NFT collection. So the purchasers of the NFT collection, people that would buy the NFTs and support the DAO, we had it so that the money from the collection would automatically be shot to the multi-sig safe of the DAO, which is basically a treasury that had multiple signatories in order to access and release funds. So once that was going to the multi-sig, we had the multi-sig, we minted our own currency, and we had the multi-sig shoot the purchasers of the NFT collection the currency automatically. And once the purchasers had our currency in their wallet, which they got automatically from buying the NFT, they were granted programmatically gated access to Discord channels, gated access to IRL events, gated access to website pages, as well as links and Zooms and YouTube videos and the like. So we used that and the fundraising in order to launch the DAO. The DAO got launched at ETH Denver, and then and basically it got $1 million grant. Harmony has a $300 million grant fund. So we got the grant, and with that, we're able to launch a whole number of other DAOs and sponsor scholarships to send women to other events, other ETH events and crypto events all over the world.
Wow, sounds amazing. I hope to learn a lot about NFTs from you. Our next speaker is Dr. Rolf. Dr. Rolf is the founder and CEO of VR Direct. VR Direct is a maker of VR software solutions for companies like Siemens, Nestle, and Porsche. They also make custom white label VR solutions for other companies. He also has an experience of digital entertainment business and management. So Rolf, could you let us more about what VR Direct does?
Sure. Thanks for the invitation. Yeah, so my background is in also in a media company before I started VR Direct. And with VR Direct, we are primarily providing a software solution for, as you said, large organizations, organizations like Siemens and Nestle, Porsche, Henkel, Deutsche Telekom. All of them are using VR Direct as their standard VR solution, and it basically solves two challenges for these enterprises. One is the creation of VR projects. So big enterprises are looking for solutions that they can internalize, meaning the internal teams, the everyday user needs to be enabled to create content. And the second challenge for enterprises is that the current metaverse market is very fragmented, with large players building their closed ecosystems like Meta, like Pico and HTC and others. So it's very difficult for them to bring their content onto different platforms, and that's actually what we also help them. So it's an end-to-end software solution for enterprises to create and publish virtual reality projects.
Right. So you talked about this fragmented metaverse that the companies are building. Could you tell us more about how you got into metaverse, what you feel the metaverse is, and more about the fragmented part?
Yeah, but I mean, if you look at the metaverse market from a high-level perspective, you see that there's almost no independent VR hardware manufacturer left at this point in time. Most VR hardware manufacturers been bought by large organizations. Tencent has bought Black Shark, and Foxconn has bought XR Spaces, and obviously ByteDance, the mother company of Pico, of TikTok, has acquired Pico. So you see a trend in the market that they seem to have, the metaverse players have copied from Apple in the smartphone era, in the sense that all of these players are looking to horizontally integrate their platforms, meaning hardware, operating system, and ecosystem or commercialization of the platforms. And ultimately, that will lead to a phase in the market where you have really large players with deep pockets fighting for dominance, and ultimately this creates a challenge for all enterprise users that just want to get started with the metaverse, because the different ecosystems are highly incompatible, at least at this point in time. So that's so while there is a great hype in the market, and people seem to more and more understand the metaverse use cases, and enterprises are looking to implement those, the market situation is a big challenge at this point in time.
Okay, great. So what I understand is all these big metaverse companies are buying the hardware required to get into the metaverse and making it difficult for the smaller companies to get started.
Yeah.
Okay. So next question to you, Ambos. I saw that you're working on this smart city digital twin project, where you're bringing in real life relationships between infrastructure, people, technology into the virtual world. So what do you feel is making the metaverse extremely close to the real world better, or making the metaverse as a fantasy land for people to experience things that they couldn't in the real world?
Yeah, no, you obviously cannot replace reality with virtual reality or metaverse. It's kind of like a second layer where we can augment stuff which you usually don't see. So, for example, my smart city digital twins project, we had like 30 sensors in different parts of the campus of the college where I was staying. And basically, it was like a virtual world inside the campus, and you could go around in the campus in virtual reality. And it was for building managers, so you could see like any kind of data related to the building. So it could be like, water consumption or electricity consumption, and there were other factors as well where you could see the performance of the buildings inside the campus, and you can overlay all kinds of different data visualization techniques which you cannot imagine otherwise. But in a separate virtual world, these information presented in the right way can be really helpful.
Great. So virtualization of information that could not have been possible in the real life in the metaverse while being in the real like world is what you plan to do.
Exactly.
Great. Now my question to Dave. Dave, after practicing law for 10 years, what was so enticing about the metaverse that you had to switch back to it? Or were you just bored of law after 10 years?
No, I wasn't bored of law. I enjoyed practicing law. What happened was my clients, who were the COO and the CIO of a large company, I was in-house at the time, asked me if I'd like to move into the business on the IT side, managing some business issues. And in so doing, I became very interested in technology, and began following social media. At the time, social media, Twitter was brand new that year, 2007. And I began to think about how interesting it would be to use Twitter in a workplace in order to bring people around the world together for better cohesion. And then I was introduced to Second Life, the VR of the time, and that was kind of a social media that would even improve the cohesion even more through this concept of presence. And that is the feeling that you have when you're in a virtual environment where the world seems real, where the people seem real despite the fact that their avatars thousands of miles away. So I began to develop virtual workplaces in Second Life at the time in order to capture and demonstrate this idea of presence. And I just fell in love with the idea that we could feel like we were together despite the fact that we were sitting on different continents at our desks. And the fact that we could have serendipitous conversations in a workplace despite the fact that we weren't anywhere near each other.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what enticed me, and that's what hooked me, and that's what still interests me.
Amazing. So you had a sense of Metaverse being big 15 years before it actually became popular.
Actually, I would say that we had a boom back then as well. And unfortunately, what happened there, and it's a concern that I have today, that is that the use cases that companies are pursuing in virtual environments are such that they're not, well thought out or well suited to the virtual environment. So what happened then was that people began to lose interest. And I think that today we have to avoid that by really making sure that our projects are well suited to the metaverse and take advantage of this idea of presence and really do a good job of building community. Because if we're able to build community, then I think that we'll be able to create a persistent and flourishing metaverse as opposed to one where people lose interest after a period of time.
Right, exactly. So, Brian, what do you think NFTs and DAO play a role in Metaverse? How could NFTs and DAO benefit from the Metaverse? Because
That
as
is a
per
great.
what I see, NFTs are basically an option for investment currently. How would that change in the Metaverse?
Well, I think there's a lot of ways. NFTs essentially can serve many purposes other than speculative investment. Otherwise, when I stayed away from Web3 for that very reason.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought it was just for speculation and anti-government
Okay.
anti-government actions. I really think that it can be used as, for example, it can be used as a passport. Essentially, you can have ticketing in the metaverse for events like concerts or access to games or access to spaces by holding an NFT. Also, NFTs can be used as land. Any land is itself a non-fungible token, showing ownership of the land, by which you can develop the land, or by which you can, sell it, or you can rent out the land for others to develop. NFTs can be used to show for any assets in the metaverse, such as wearables and consumables, or any parts of them. It could be the fabric of a garment. It could be anything to show not only ownership but also to distribute royalties from the usage of it or secondary sales. It can also be used as an avatar in a game. So if I have a Bored Ape, for example, well, firstly, I'm rich, and secondly, if I have it, I'm able to, ideally, if there's true interoperability in the metaverse, use it and bring it to various games or various metaverses, because that's really one of the themes of Harmony as a blockchain is interoperability, and maybe take the NFT and rig it and make a 3D model of it to use in different games. So there's many use cases for NFTs. For DAOs, a DAO could be basically control the treasury of a guild, which could work for play and earn games, or DAOs, which are distributed autonomous organizations by which people organize themselves, could come together and actually collaborate in the metaverse. For example, meeting each other, participating in various activities, helping coordinate each other virtual. They could chat, they could have office hours, they could invest in others, in other DAOs and discover other DAOs to invest and support in. So there's many use cases for both in the metaverse.
Great. You talked about land being an NFT. So Dave, I wanted to ask you, I've heard a lot about investing in land in Metaverse. But if everyone makes their own Metaverse, why is that land so valuable? What is the application of holding some land in Metaverse?
I'm sorry, you asking?
Who are you asking?
Dave.
Dave. Okay. Well, I mean, I think that land is non-fungible, as someone said earlier. So it's scarce to an extent, and I think that many metaverses will continue to maintain it as scarce. But beyond that, this is an issue of location, right? So the extent to which you find your land in an environment that becomes successful will yield land that is more valuable than other places. And by successful, I don't only mean that a lot of people go to it, but also that the features are such that an economy is established and relationships and interactivity is established. So if you're able to buy land in an environment like that, it will become more valuable over time than places that become ghost towns, frankly. And that's one of the things that I think a lot about, and that is how do we ensure that the different virtual environments become active and flourishing, as opposed to things that are exciting today but become deserted tomorrow. That's it's a critical element to think about more.
So a land should have some specific applications. People should build some things over there. For example, Ambus, if you would have to build an AR VR metaverse related hospital or something to improve healthcare in the metaverse, what would you be doing in the metaverse using HLE?
Yeah. Sorry, can you repeat?
How would
Hello.
how would HLE help people in the metaverse in the healthcare sector?
So our metaverse basically we cater to surgeons and patients. So
Okay.
patients as well as surgeons can collaborate with each other in a metaverse. So it's called patient engagement. So we kind of offer counseling, consultation, and therapy to the patients. So the surgeons and patients, even if they are remotely located, they join through our application, and they are able to, in an immersive environment, they're able to overlay like immersive 3D immersive content, and with the help of that, you know, kind of it is for premium patients, and they can increase patient satisfaction with that. So yeah, our solution aims at bringing patients and surgeons together in this metaverse.
So I recently read a blog about helping with anxiety, showing people different scenarios in a virtual reality space to distract them from what they're anxious or stressed about. Is that what you focus on?
Yeah, so that's one of the thing. When you go to a hospital, you kind of take consultation, right? You suppose you're a cancer patient, for example, and the surgeon needs to show you a bunch of scans, and he has to tell you basically what kind of procedure we are going through, and this kind of builds anxiety as well. In our application, basically, we can help them through this process by showing them scans and like a 3D content where they can truly understand what is going on. Most of the times, whatever the surgeon is talking about, it may sound like gibberish, but here we have 3D scans, CTs or MRIs, all imagined in 3D, and they can exactly show what kind of procedure is going to be performed, and this gives them more understanding, and they're able to realize, okay, these guys are professional, they know what they're talking about. So that in a way kind of removes the tension or anxiety that is building up when the patient goes in for any kind of procedure.
Great. 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 So Rolf, you also make VR softwares, correct? Now you made software for Siemens, Nestle, Porsche. For Porsche and Siemens, I can understand, but what did Nestle want in VR or other companies that are non-tech?
Yeah, so we see use cases for our software, but for the metaverse in general, basically across the organizations. So we have a lot of so I would say probably the main group of use cases is around HR processes, anything from employer branding, learning modules, onboarding, training, safety trainings, all the way. A second big group of use cases is what I would call like infotainment portals, kind of virtual rooms for employees or customers where you can get information, where you can connect, where you can coordinate your workday or something like that. That's been growing a lot, driven by the pandemic also. And the third group is then all kind of sales and marketing related applications, anything from product demonstration to customer service stories. And in the particular case of Nestle, they have great employer branding cases, telling the history of Nestle, and they're also right now in the process of creating virtual twins of basically every relevant side of their global organization.
Right. So you're bringing your digital entertainment experience into this also.
Yeah, to some extent, but that it's the purpose of these applications is not entertainment in the first place, but obviously it helps if the content is nice and fun to use.
Right. Also, now Metaverse is, so Facebook has shifted from social media, being a social media platform, to a Metaverse platform. But isn't Metaverse an future social media platform? What do you say, Dave?
Yeah, it is. I mean, one thing that I might say, to just step back a second, is that the concept of the metaverse is quite broad. I mean, on this panel, you hear a variety of different applications. You hear training, you hear simulations, entertainment, games, digital twins, data replication and application and prediction, and then you hear social. And most of us, when we hear the word metaverse, I think lately, we think of social applications where individuals can get together and they can interact as if in person inside of a virtual immersive experience. But the use cases of the metaverse are far beyond that. Now, to get back to your question, and so the rules differ based on those different applications. Now, to get back to your question, I would say yes. Think about the evolution of social media, if you will, beginning with chat, AIM, or whatever it was called back then, AOL's chat tool, and then two-way, Twitter, Facebook, and now multi-way, including immersive in-person interactions that are similar to real-life engagements. So I think on that sort of on that path, clearly we've been moving to the more engaging and more immersive, and the metaverse is one step beyond that. And the metaverse itself will only become more social and more engaging as the technology, as the visuals, etc., improve.
Right. Now, Brian, based on what Dave said, that Metaverse will be improving. But so Facebook had the slowest quarter this year. What could they do to make the Metaverse more accessible, or how could they improve the Metaverse? Is it going to be a slow process, or is it going to be soon?
Well, I mean, I don't necessarily want Facebook to improve. I'm in favor of a decentralized metaverse that is accessible to all, and has cross metaverse compatibility, where anybody can have land and develop their own experiences, have their own identities, which could be private on there, and to participate fully in the economy, to have land on there and do whatever they want, which is not necessarily dovetailing with Facebook's vision. For a metaverse to really succeed, it needs there's a lot of different things that it needs to have that no metaverse currently has. They need to have robust, built-out environments. They need to have, there's network effects to it, but they need people using the platform to share experiences and the social experiences that make it, inherently interesting. People need to be able to participate in the economy. There's a lot of GameFi projects out there where you can play the game and play and earn, but they don't really, you can't really do what you want on the spaces. The projects need to connect. There should be like live concerts on there and events, and a defined aesthetic, and basically it needs to be synchronous and live. And a lot of the metaverses that are currently out there, some of them look beautiful and have gotten a lot of press, and like Decentraland, for example, had a fashion metaverse week, and they had a big concert festival 2 years in a row. But there's still, most of the land looks like an undeveloped frontier, like a ghost town, like an empty shopping mall. So for that to work, you need more people developing more experiences on there. And finally, you need it to be compatible with people's lower end systems. If you're just making a metaverse that has very heavy requirements on the user to have a very good computer or VR hardware, that's going to slow adoption markedly as well.
Right. Very interesting. So you also made the Blue Metaverse, right, to spread awareness about the metaverse, especially for women. So did you also focus on the point of the metaverse not requiring a gaming PC hardware or high specification?
I think that that's important. I think that the metaverse itself, metaverses can handle all kinds of experiences. You could have a flat map, which is just web only, like we have the number one game on all the blockchains of play to earn, which is DeFi Kingdoms. And that, you can have something like that, which is like a flat map, where you can just sort of click on it and it reflects the experiences inside. And then when you're in there, it can sort of port you to a 3D experience, or to anything really, 2.5D, you name it, however it's built. But ideally, the experience itself of the metaverse shouldn't be something that requires stupid amounts of hardware, even if there's select experiences inside of it that might.
Right. So I heard about the concert. So we also we were first introduced by this concert that an Indian singer had, Dilar Mehndi. So we saw that concert, and we also planned to have the event in Metaverse. I feel concerts are a really big place to spread awareness about Metaverse. Also, so
I'm
Roy,
sorry, is that a question? Are you asking about
no.
concerts, or are you just saying that?
No, I just said that. So we also heard about it through the concert that the Indian singer had.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think Travis Scott is a well-known rapper. He just did a concert on Fortnite, and he made $20 million from that. Usually in a concert, he just made like $1.5 million or something, and with like 500,000 people. But here in this virtual concert, he had around 2 million people watching him, and he made a cool $20 million in profit with that. So I do think it's a very big industry. Very interesting.
Also, so making so much money without actually investing a lot of physical concert would have actually required a lot of investment. Dave, how much is the difference between the investment you need on a metaverse or in a physical place? What is the difference between that?
The difference in investment.
So if you need to build an application or build something on the metaverse, what is the difference between doing that on the metaverse or doing that in the physical world?
Well, I guess the answer is it all depends on what you're looking to build. I think in many cases you can build facilities far less expensively in a metaverse because you're working on code and models that are able to be reused and are relatively low cost compared to, real life building materials or rental or things of that nature. However, I would just reiterate the earlier point that the investment that many companies are making right now is relatively small for them. However, we need to make sure that that investment isn't wasted. So, if a large brand, a bank, for example, creates a facility in a relatively empty metaverse, and they expect for people to go there for education or to make transactions or whatever, they're going to be disappointed because the behavior hasn't established itself, and many aren't investing as much in community building and engagement as they are in the initial build. So part of the investment that we make has got to be ongoing community building and community maintenance so that this is actually a worthwhile experiment rather than a disappointing venture.
Right. Great point. So Ambus, HLE might have also made a lot of investment in bringing AR and VR into healthcare. Before you had this AR VR technology, what was the plan? How were the people treated before AR and VR? And how did it change? What is the feedback from the patients?
Yeah, so before actually we were working, I wasn't there, but the founders were working in another startup where they were basically working with scans and making an Android application where scans can be rendered in 3D and the surgeon can just open their phone and see it. But I mean, back in 2016, things really started to shift when all these headsets were announced, the Quest and HTC Vive and all these headsets were announced. So we kind of moved into this space. And yeah, so far the feedback from the patients as well as the surgeons has been amazing. So we also offering like pre-operative planning, right? So before any procedure, two surgeons want to collaborate and discuss about that particular case. So we kind of put them on the same platform, and we give them access to any kind of scans, any kind of information, or any kind of 3D model or simulations, which they can access before going into an actual procedure. So yeah, we also give like different tools which help them. So they have to make an incision basically on the skull, for example. They can do it in 3D, and while the other person watches, and there's like a certain back and forth involved in this case, and yeah, so particularly for that, like the feedback has been really positive.
So do the surgeons actually practice surgeries in AR and VR?
Yeah, so our platform also gives like surgical training. So we have like an end-to-end platform where any kind of surgery, any kind of procedure can be recorded with the help of stereo cameras. So the surgeon, while performing the surgery, wears our headband, which captures 180-degree view with stereo cameras, so left and right both. And this again gets uploaded to our content authoring platform, where using AI tools you can like segment or label different parts in the surgical procedure while it is happening. And then on the consumer end, when they wear the headset, they are completely immersed in this surgical procedure recording that we have. And it's not just like viewing the recording of the surgery, but it's also we augment it with different tools and different information, which helps them really try to imitate the surgeon when they're doing the surgery. So this is the kind of surgical training platform and education platform that we're working on.
Great. The next question is to Brian. Then there are movies like Ready Player One and Free Guy, where people are completely into the metaverse and they've left the real world, and the real world is into shambles. Do you think that is going to happen? Do you think that might happen? Brian, could you hear me?
Yes, I think that, the whole issue of whether we're going to leave the real world for the metaverse is preemptive. The adoption of VR is still low for the, there are people strapping television sets to their heads, but they're to play video games, and people are spending absurd amounts of time on video games now, just like they were spending absurd amounts of time watching, surfing the internet, and then watching TV, and then reading and doing whatever it is they do. The world being in shambles, I mean, this has been talked about since, forever. There were apocalyptic religious cults that have become major world religions thousands of years ago. And there's, you can look at T.S. Eliot's The Wasteland over 100 years ago. So I really think that the idea of just leaving this world for virtual vistas is understated. I do think it will happen. I mean, as environmental collapse occurs, Elon Musk and other people are going to go off to somewhere else, or whatever will happen. But I think that the idea that we're just going to leave reality for a fantasy is nothing particularly new or interesting.
Mm-hmm. Understood. Now, Rolf, the new generation, so those people are going to be the most users of the metaverse. They'll be using the metaverse the most. What do you think would they be using it for? What would the applications for them be more? So would they be using it as a social media, or what applications do you look at for them using VR?
Sorry, which audience did you ask?
So the young people. So metaverse is just introduced right now. So those people would be the ones who will be using it most. What do you think they'll use it for?
Well, I think the ultimately the idea of the metaverse is something that's that this is not, how should I put this, is not being actively used, but it's just something that surrounds us all day long, basically. So I think the metaverse, you will see that in various different kinds of applications, basically affecting all of our lives, regardless if we want to use it or don't want to use it. I think young folks, if we talk about the younger audiences, have a stronger tendency towards social and gaming activities, obviously, which is good. So I think that's going to be the prime use case for young people.
Right now, since social media is so addictive right now, people are questioning why people are using social media so much and data is being stolen. Do you see that coming into the metaverse too?
Yeah, in the same way that all other negative things of the Web 2 will also happen in Web 3. I think it's wherever you work with large amounts of data, there's a risk of data breaches and data fraud and whatever. So I think that's inherent of all kind of technologies and applications. That's not particular to the metaverse. I think we should also be bit careful to not mix two things here. Social media platforms like Facebook got some bad reputation recently for good reasons. But this has nothing to do with the technology vision of the metaverse, other than one of the key players accidentally being Meta in that space. But I think one should be careful with just adopting the critics that are meant towards Facebook to the metaverse. That's I think not a fair way to deal with that.
Great point. So Brian, now as we said that data is being used, is being misused, is being stolen, is being taken for granted. How does NFT and DAO come into place while preventing people from using our data or tokenizing the data of an individual on social media, on metaverse, anywhere?
I'm not sure I quite understand the question. I'm so sorry.
So could the data, that the usage data of people on any platform, be tokenized using NFTs and DAOs?
Any transaction that happens with an NFT or with a wallet address is permanent and traceable on the blockchain. So that data is readily accessible. If a metaverse requires some particular type of sign up, like email sign up or whatnot, then that of course can be bought, sold, traded, and the like. Or if you take an identity like an avatar or a login with an NFT or a social currency and go from place to place, that will be seeable and usable, and and anybody can do what they want with it. A lot of that with DAOs is desirable and something that the user might want. For example, I might work in a DAO and do good work and be awarded reputation tokens, multiple currencies. A DAO might issue multiple currencies for governance, for treasury, because the governments, they might want to give more voting rights to somebody that's worked harder, or more voting rights to somebody who's built up a reputation, so that way they can make better decisions, or for more voting rights on certain issues for people who have bought more of the currency, or they might want to make it a membership DAO where it's one person, one vote. So however they do it, if you have built up a reputation doing something for a DAO, and you work for other DAOs, which you do. The work of the future is going to be for a DAO. So you're going to work for one, work for another. You might have reputation tokens built up through various DAO tooling mechanisms like SourceCred or Coordinate or any of the others. And that's something where the identity and the data can be used to work in your favor and controlled by you.
Great. So Dave, do you see any applications of data being used in the metaverse? So now social media, there's a limited data that you're scrolling through something, you're watching something, but in the metaverse, you're doing things. So that data is also recorded. Do you see the applications for that kind of data?
Yes, I think I can think of two off the top of my head. One is tracking user data and economy data in order to drive behaviors within metaverses. We see that in social environments today, that we're able to increase engagement or able to increase revenue by leveraging user data. We'll do the same thing in a virtual environment. But there's another way that data will be used, and that is through creating and leveraging digital twins. So imagine creating a replica of a city and measuring behaviors within that replica, altering variables and parameters within that replica in order to determine how to change or adjust or manipulate the real world. Or to predict behaviors inside of the real world. That's another use of data that I think can be extremely valuable. For example, in the energy usage context or in the transportation context, and in a variety of others, where we're creating virtual environments in order to create models that will inform our behaviors in the real world.
Right. So tracking what you do in the metaverse and then predicting what you'll do in the real world.
Yeah. So one, in the social context, like you know, how you use a website, dictating where you place the ads on the page, and that's one way. The other way is, you know, a scientific or a data exercise where we create a world for the purpose of using it as a model to determine how we might change or adjust or optimize the real world going forward.
Right. Now this last question, I'll keep it open for everyone to answer as we're reaching the end of the event. So there are many sensitive applications that people are going to bring into Metaverse as well, like Ambush and Actually are bringing healthcare into Metaverse. There'll be some problems related to that because medical data about people is really sensitive. People being in the Metaverse, being treated in the Metaverse, who's liable if something happens to someone in the Metaverse or due to some application in the Metaverse? What do you think, Ambos and Dave and Brian?
The question is around the sensitivity, the use of sensitive data.
And about legal aspects of who's responsible for something happening in the Metaverse to a user. What are the...
Yeah. I see a whole area of law developing around metaverse interactions. So anything from land disputes to you know, harassment, to IP, to security patents, you name it. There is an opportunity for disputes inside of the metaverse that are different than social media because of the immersiveness of the environment. So imagine a situation where one avatar slaps another avatar, and that's one kind of, you know, pseudo battery. But then imagine the person who's being slapped wearing a haptic device in real life, so that when the avatar in the virtual world slaps them, they actually feel it physically in the real world. Well, now we've got a situation where there actually could be physical damages based on a virtual digital slap. So think about all of the complexities there and how that works out, and you know, the jurisdictional issues, like where do you sue somebody if that happens? And by the way, each of these metaverses will have terms of service that may or may not govern the behavior inside the virtual world. So the legal issues are highly complicated, and there are many of them. In the medical context, certainly with sensitive data, just like any other digital environment, there's the opportunity to abuse it. And we're going to have to get much smarter and tighter, as we are, about managing and safeguarding that information so that it isn't misused.
Correct. Brian, people are creating NFTs out of moments or out of pictures, out of things in the real world, and they're ridiculously priced. Who decides these prices for these NFTs and how are they decided?
Prices can be set at first by whoever's minting the NFTs. When you mint an NFT collection, you can mint one and it can be one of one. You can mint 100 and then there can be, you know, one or two items of them and 100 instances of each NFT. Or, you know, you can mint 10,000 and each one is unique. But you set a minting price and it can be anything, you know, it can be 0.09 ETH, it can be whatever you want. Then that is, you know, you can have a Discord community, and then you can whitelist people in the Discord community so they can buy it from you directly before it goes to the market. It's similar to what a lot of companies do before they go IPO. And then when it's released on the market, then you can buy it at whatever price. If it's on the Ethereum blockchain, the gas fees and transaction fees can be very high. If it's very competitive, it can be $40 to $100 just for the transaction fee. Whereas Harmony and certain other chains, the transaction fee can be, a hundredth of a cent. It can be much less. And then once it's there, once it's minted, then they can be sold on OpenSea or on any of the other NFT marketplaces, and they can be resold, and you can just get them on the open market. It's kind of like an eBay for buying NFTs. The prices are, as I say, they're first set by the minter, but at the end of the day, it's sort of supply and demand. The cheapest NFT price is typically called the floor. And the price not only is supply and demand, but also people look at the collection, and some of it is about the aesthetics. Like, do they think that this would be a good PFP that would represent the person that they can relate to? Do they like the artwork? Part of it could be the functionality. Is it generative art? Does it do anything? Does it change or mutate over time? Part of it is like, will this be used as a passport? And part of it is just whether you can. It's like a bet on the strength of the community and on their future roadmap. So a lot of times, an NFT collection might come out and they'll say, okay, we're going to take these NFTs and you're going to be able to use them to be able to play them in a game, and then it's going to be usable in the future metaverse. It'll all come to nothing because building a metaverse is hard and expensive, and it'll just end up a whole pile of nothing. But sometimes, you might buy this little Bored Ape for next to nothing, and then all of a sudden it's worth $1 million because the community is full of developers and it was able to get traction and press and celebrities, and now they're building their own metaverse, and it's worth a ton and everybody wants one. So it's like buying anything, and there's a lot of speculation, and we're certainly in a bubble, and most NFT collections will become worthless. But it's like where we were with the web, in 2000 or whatever. The fact that most of it is speculation or will become worthless does not negate the fact of the current utility of it and the future utility, and the fact that this really is the platform on which our online interactions will take place for years and years to come.
Right. So like speculations, even cryptocurrencies are based on speculations, correct? And people are making so many frauds, like the Squid Game currency. It just came in and only the investors made money, only the inventors made the money. Everyone else lost that money. Does that come to NFTs also? Can those kind of frauds be made using NFTs?
Absolutely. They're called rugs or rug pulls, where somebody will release a collection, fundraise for a project that is going to is going to have these grand ambitions, and then the owners will disappear with the funds. It's called rug pull. So it happens in crypto. Present, there's not really a lot you can do about it. You have to do your own research. You have to get involved with the communities and know who you're dealing with. Practice best safety practices with your wallet, like getting a hardware wallet, and there's other things that you can do and read about online on how to do that. But at the end of the day, the decentralized nature of the web is a double-edged sword. There's no, on the one hand, it's not creepy and you're not being followed and you're not beholden to the huge platforms and the billionaires who have now just sort of in the algorithm. But on the other hand, there's no central police, there's no help desk. You're kind of on your own. So it's great for a DeFi and decentralized finance where you don't have to pay a central authority huge amounts of money in fees, but it's also not great because of that very reason. So you really have to do your own research and take care.
So this is like close to the end of the session. After this, we'll be going to a party room. I'll just open the floor for all of you. You can ask each other some questions if you have any, and then we'll go to the party room. Liam? Hello? Hello?
Yeah, yeah, you can hear you.
Okay. So seems like you guys don't have any questions for each other. Dave, you've been working on multiple applications involving medical also. Maybe Ambos and you could talk about something related to the medical world, how they're using
And
VR and how medical world could impact from the metaverse.
sorry, how has they been involved? If mm, knowledge.
Well, right now I advise a company that is developing a V system for education, our platform, if you will, to help them deal with their circumstances, and it includes an immediate element. So what we're doing now is we're finishing the product, and we're going to begin working with children's hospitals to get those packages into rooms, because the immersive nature of the product can be enormously helpful to them.
Just
Awesome.
okay. So if you could just follow me to the party area, anywhere on the floor over here, stage, and then you'll be able to walk. Yep. Great session. Now let's party. So we have a party room over here. If you can see our logo, circular logo at the bottom left over here. So like you click to enter the amphitheater, you could click on that, and the password is 1234. And anyone from the audience who would like to party with us can come in. The password is 1234. Button again.
Don't say you're on to the other side, my love,
Yeah.
my love. You say you wanna try, but
It's great having you today. Really learned a lot about NFTs and DAO.
but you never do. Sugar, there's
the icon on the right side, the guy jumping. You click on that, you've got a bunch of different dance moves you can bust out. Hi, Bernard.
Hey Danielle, how you doing?
Doing great. How are you? Happy Friday.
Yeah, happy Friday, man. I am chilling here in my office doing a couple of follow-ups.
Hi, Bernard. Would you like
Hey,
to-
how you doing? I'm doing the great crash out at a dark.
Great. So I guess we all start to drop early. Yeah, Brian, you have a thought. Hi, Brian.
Hi.
It was great hosting you today. Really learned a lot about NFTs.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, really interesting, Brian. I
Okay.
enjoyed that.
Very cool. I loved it. It's a great environment. Good questions.
Bernard is a speaker from one of our previous sessions. He's also making Metaverse and media content in the Metaverse.
Yeah, definitely. Also, I was thinking, since I have a lot of entertainment content, like music, as well as performances, I was wondering how can I collaborate with you guys to add content to your Metaverse. That way we can get that whole adoption going. Because I could easily put your brand in my Metaverse. Brand could go in yours.
Brian, so in the blue Metaverse, right? Bernard, you're talking about the blue Metaverse.
Yeah, I mean, right now we're basically specking out what a metaverse would look like and should have. We have a lot of projects on Harmony that are building individual metaverses, as well as GameFi and other metaverse-like protocols. But you could go to Harmony Universe and see what projects are out there, and we also have a grant program at talk.harmony.one where you could find out and see what, apply to get a grant or see what projects have gotten
Oh,
grants.
great. You said that's Harmony Metaverse? I'm actually writing that down.
Well, Harmony Universe lists a lot of the projects, but also you could go to talk.harmony.one, ONE, and just look in the grant section and you can see what got grants and how to get grants and things like that.
Very interesting. Because I'm a grant writer.
Oh, that's great.
And I'm now putting together this huge grant writing hackathon. And and it's labeled it's a metaverse STEM because I'm in the whole educational STEM field. So basically it's writing grants for technology that support the metaverse, cryptocurrency, are starting this whole initiative called the DI, whereas that social aspect here in Chicago, we have a whole lot of smash downtown. Excuse me, and a whole lot of youth is doing the smash and grab because they value Coach bags, stuff. So in my community, we actually are doing networking event called deep Wi-Fi parties. for instance, you are not allowed to wear diamonds, no bling. Try to get into the party of the network event. Got a piece of precious jewelry, diamonds or whatever. The bouncer is going to ask you politely to bling in pocket. And this is a way of valuing stuff that folks steal. Bags. Like, what if in the Black community value all the stuff really don't have any value? The Coach bags, diamonds, gold trinkets. Concentrate on economy of putting the talents together. So I have a lot of folks that buy in. So now bring this to the fashion world, entertainment world.
Sounds interesting. We also talked about concerts during the talk, how concerts are bringing awareness about Metaverse, and you bringing media into Metaverse would help the concept as well.
All right, thank you everyone for joining us. This event was great. Thanks Brian, thanks Bernard, thanks Daniel. Thanks Tanmay for being a good moderator today. So, all right, see you all soon. Thanks for your
Sounds
presence.
good. Sounds good.
Thanks,
Take care,
everyone.
guys. And I will be sending links to my open metaverse parties.
Sure.
DMC,
Sure.
DMC